Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our April 28th meeting of council. I'll call this meeting to order at 7:01. On the agenda, could we change 18:6 is now, or sorry, 8:6 is now 8:4. And could we add 11.2 under correspondence for action, which is the regional cadet support unit? Is there any more, Deputy Mayor?
On the agenda under in-camera, it doesn't list any items, but I believe we have an in-camera agenda, so something should be there.
It's in the in-camera agenda. There is, the items are listed, I believe. Do you mean in the open agenda?
Yes, we have to say what the in-camera items are, whether it's, has to do with HR, land, finance, whatever.
Any others? Could I have someone move the agenda, please, then? Thank you. Councillor Lebrion, all in favor? Carried. Form 1 with the adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting. Is there any errors? Deputy Mayor?
Under council reports on March 26th, I'd also attended the Ready Board meeting. That just was missed.
Any others? Okay, could I have someone move the agenda, please? Or the minutes, sorry. Councillor Lambert, all in favor?
No, sorry.
What?
I'm not moving them, sorry, there was
Oh.
another issue.
Oh, okay.
Sorry if I may. Yeah, on the April 14th meeting minutes, it says on my reports as well that I was at the, what meeting was it here? Mackenzie Regional Waste Management meeting. I did not attend that.
On council reports?
Yeah, it says on March 26th, I attended the Mackenzie Regional Waste Management Commission. I did not, I'm not on that board. Thank you.
Okay, any other errors? Could I have a motion?
I'll move the minutes as amended.
Councillor Anderson, thank you. All in favor? Carried. So the mayor's report, sorry, I didn't get a chance to write it all down, but I have a verbal one. So on April 22nd, I was supposed to meet with Minister Nixon, re 3 issues in Boreal housing. But at 11:15, we were meeting at 11:30. The meeting was canceled. He couldn't make the meeting. And so then I left to another meeting, and 11:40, he rejoined the meeting. So we called for a reorganization of that. On the 24th, I met with 3 ladies from Vancouver representing DRAX, and they were wondering how they could get involved with the community and give some support. I asked for 51 million, but they said they didn't have that much. But it was worth a try. I said that was probably one of our #1 areas that we were looking for support. But they also mentioned emergency management, so I gave them Director Clark's. I gave her the card to contact with them. But they want to get involved in the community, so there's a good positive for us. Today I met with CRAW, and it was just basically business as usual. We're sort of sitting in a holding pattern, waiting for the election to be over so that we can perhaps meet the new ministers of transportation. On May 6th, which is Tuesday, I believe, at 9 o'clock, I'm going to have a meeting with the CAO, the new CAO of TOCO, and with Janice Simpkins, who is the Indigenous Government Relations for TOCO, and the Deputy Minister, which his name eludes me at this point, and with Adam Blythe. If anyone wants to join us at the meeting, you're welcome. It's 9 o'clock at TOCO, and that at 1:30 we will be doing a mill tour. And that's my report. Any questions? Could I have someone move my report, please?
I'll move the mayor's report.
Thank you, Councillor Welke. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to council committee reports, Deputy Mayor.
On April 16th, attended the Mackenzie Regional Waste Management Mission Board meeting. And also on the 16th, the Ready AGM, and followed by the Ready regular board meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
On, excuse me, on April 16th, I attended a CEC meeting at the college. They're trying to put on some more programs for the community. And on April 24th, I attended the high-level library board meeting. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jessamine.
Good evening, everyone. On April the 16th, I attended our monthly high-level community policing society meeting. And also we met last week with Drax as well. So we had a really good meeting with them to review their support summary that they have for communities. And it was very well received by us. We had a long list of wants, and so they were pretty happy with that because they have a number of categories that they support throughout communities, and they were really excited to meet Julie, the manager, and see the center. So they're really happy about working with us in the future. And also, I'd like to make an announcement tonight that I tendered my resignation this morning with CAO and council and mayor. It's been 8 years almost for me, and I've moved on within the government of Alberta, and so with a heavy heart, I've made the decision to resign. And as we have posted our house and are successful in the sale of that, so we'll be moving south. And I just wanted to thank everybody on the board and within the town management. The support over the years have been really, really good. I've really enjoyed working with council and the mayor. It's been a lot of great adventures we've been on, and great support. And the people at the town office have been amazing in their support over the years. And so it is time to turn a chapter in my life and move forward. And I just want to thank everybody for their support in the town and wish everybody the best as we go forward.
Well, we're going to certainly miss you. I am anyways. I don't know about the rest of them. It's been a real pleasure working with you over the years, and I'd like to say that we've accomplished lots with you. And you were always there to advise us through the fires, and always welcome back here anytime.
I'll be up on Saturday to cook some breakfast sandwiches for everybody.
Perfect. But it's pancakes.
You can still make a sandwich.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Jessamine. Councillor Lambert.
On April 16th, I also attended the Ready AGM and regular board meeting. And then April 24th, attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting, just finalizing last few things on the trade show. Everything's coming together. We are completely sold out on booths, so we're really excited about that. Everything's fallen into place pretty well, so yeah, it'd be the first one in 7 years, so hopefully keep spreading the word, let everybody know that, to come out. And I was gonna ask if the town would be able to share some of the information on the Facebook page as well, since we have a rather big following. It'd be good to spread the word there. I mean, especially considering the town as a major sponsor, so we could look into doing that. That would be greatly appreciated.
We're excited,
We are too. A lot of work's been done.
I bet. Do you have a booth list or of all the booths?
We're printing tomorrow.
Diagram?
Printing tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's all I have to report.
thank you. Counselor Librion.
Okay, I attended the Mackenzie Regional Waste Commission meeting on the 16th as well. And then on the 24th was the library, iLevel Library Board. I just wanted to put in a plug for their upcoming event here on Saturday, the Petals and Pours event. They're going to be doing some flower crafts along with treats and pampering. And then as well, there's a raffle for a gift basket valued at $600. So they still have a few spots left. So if anyone's interested, give them a call down to library. Thank you.
Are they doing it at the library or at the,
Yeah, it's at the library.
oh, okay. Thank you. Counselor Welke.
I have no meetings to report this session, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And that's everyone. Could I please have a motion to accept council reports? Counselor Librion, all in favor? Carried. Moving on to administrative, CAO, verbal report.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. My verbal report will be brief. I have been extremely busy with recruiting, finalizing the recruitment of 2 key positions, HR matters, and working with the consultants to finalize our ARO report, 23 and 24 year end and audit.
So have you hired anybody?
Yes, I can
Are we gonna
give you
hear
an
about it?
give you an update. In we're just in the final stages in camera session.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No?
I have some
Right.
questions.
Oh.
I have some questions.
Counselor Lambert.
So just a few things. I did notice this is the second meeting in a row now. We haven't had a full administration report. I'm just wondering if we're gonna get some updates from some of the directors. This is, like I said, this is the second one in a row now. We haven't had any updates. So hopefully we can have some information at the next one. Another issue, or I guess concern I had, was just regarding some of the communication with our town programming. I've had a few people bring it up to me, and I've also noticed it myself, just with the posters that are being put on, just announcing, say, like swim schedules, or if there's certain programming in the park or whatever. A lot of this information used to be put on the posters, and now it's just put into the post. I don't know if it's an aesthetics thing or if it's, but anyway, it's a lot harder to share that information when someone, you used to be able to, save the picture and send it to somebody. And now if the only way you see that information is if you actually look at the entire post, which there's just kind of a lot of information there. This is for just on Facebook, just so everybody knows, not. But a lot of information gets posted on there, so people, go to it quite often. But like I was mentioning, if you share the post on any other pages or groups on Facebook, you have to click and go to the original one just to get the information. So it gets a lot more confusing when you're trying to get that info on the programming that's going on in town. So just something I think we need to look into in the future, for considering the way that was done before, it seemed to work pretty well. Another thing I had questions about was just updates on the concert, or the 60th anniversary. Do we have any ideas on numbers for ticket sales, or?
Thank you for the question. Yes, so we currently have 75 tickets sold. We do anticipate more ticket sales. We are a last minute town, so we're hoping that the ticket sales will go up. And as we put out more information, the tickets have been selling, so.
Okay. Are we advertising it anywhere?
Yeah, we're advertising it on Facebook. We have it on the website. We're working with the radio station. And then we are reaching out to other municipalities to share it as well.
Okay, I mean, I do quite a bit of advertising myself for the few different entities I take care of, and I haven't noticed anything in either of those, just a heads up, so.
No, I haven't either. I don't even know what's going on other than there's a concert. So people are asking, is that all there is to the 60th birthday? I don't know. Sometimes it's good to put posters up at the restaurants too. You know, like a lot of traffic goes through those restaurants. And, you know, not everybody is on our Facebook or.
Or have we thought about advertising up north there, like in Hay River's paper or Yellowknife's or?
Yeah, we have reached out to those municipalities, and then we will take it when we go to the trade show in Yellowknife as well. And we do have a list of like the grocery stores and businesses and stuff that we do post at, but I can add the restaurants to that list as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Could I have someone move the CAO's report, please?
I'll move this.
Councillor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. Moving on to administrative inquiries, the Town of High Level Branding Options, CAO.
Through your worship, I'll turn it over to the Director of Planning and Development.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this item is related to the Committee of the Whole item, where the Committee of the Whole recommended to Council the logo and colors and branding included within Attachment 1. And now we're just looking for a formal decision from Council. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have uniforms in the town?
Do you want to take that? Okay.
Thank you for the question. Yes, some staff do, like arena staff have jackets, pool staff have uniforms, the museum staff have shirts that they wear, day camp staff have shirts.
Okay. So is someone, was that you, Deputy Mayor? Was doing the Rise and Report?
I don't believe it was me, but I can certainly move the recommendation.
All right. That council approve the adoption of the new high-level logo to replace the current version. And we officially launch it on August 1st, 2025. Any questions? All in favor? Those opposed?
I like it.
Carried. What?
I like it.
Good. It's going on your uniform.
Great.
Maybe. Okay, so moving on to the intermunicipal development plan renewal.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So back in September of 2024, Council passed a resolution supporting Mackenzie County's grant application to the Alberta Community Partnership Program to secure grant funding to update our intermunicipal development plan. The intermunicipal development plan was approved in 2009, and there have undoubtedly been quite a few changes since then, especially following the annexation of the airport lands. And so now we're looking to enter into an agreement with the county to kind of guide how that project will be going. The agreement really just outlines where the funding is coming from, how the project will be laid out, and the specifics on the Joint Steering Committee, how administrations from both organizations will be working together, and timelines. Thanks.
So I have a couple questions. Who's going to take your place? Or are you coming in on meetings?
For the first little bit, I will be available to help out. We are currently in the process of hiring for a community planner. Actually, we offered the job to somebody and they have accepted it. And they should be starting before this project starts up. So with my assistance from afar and the community planner starting full-time, they should be able to assist until a new director of planning and development is found.
My next point is, this goes into February. What happens if none of council's here? Because we're to appoint two council members, the mayor and,
Thanks for the question. That's a good question. After the municipal election, depending on the councillors that are still councillors and depending on council's wish, if there are vacant appointments, they could be replaced, or at that time, if council wanted to appoint new councillors that were still councillors at that time, they could as well. So the goal is just to have two councillors and the mayor sit on the joint steering committee. They could be changed at any time for any reason. So following the election, if we need to, we could revisit the appointments.
and my third question is, who's on the IMPC committee? So you two cannot sit on this committee. So that leaves you three. And we need to appoint two. So who would like to sit on that?
I can sit on
Yeah, I'd like to sit on that. Or,
that. No, go ahead.
All right. Could I have someone make that motion to appoint Deputy Mayor and Councillor Welke to this?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor? Carried.
How was anything with that going to be communicated to us? Sorry.
Through administration.
Okay, but we're not, we wouldn't be expecting anything right away. It would be later on with June.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We'll be starting the process in June, likely having the first meeting in June, and we'll lay out the next few months. And from then until July, it'll largely be administration moving the parts forward to draft the request for proposal and get that all ready so that we can choose a consultant. But the first meeting is planned for June.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the Moose Meadows phase.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'll make the motion to accept option one with the appointment of deputy mayor and Councillor Welke.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to the Moose Meadows Phase 1 outline plan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Enday Limited Partnership and the Dene-Taw First Nation are proposing a residential development with up to 27 modular homes. These units are meant for second stage recovery housing for Indigenous people facing gender-based violence and others recovering from addiction. And right now, their proposal does not include on-site support services. ISL Engineering has been working with Enday and the Dene-Taw, helping with outline plan and rezoning application, and they'll keep supporting the project through development and subdivision should rezoning be successful. Normally, the town hasn't always required outline plans. From what I've been able to find, the town has never requested an outline plan, but our municipal development plan does allow us to when a project like this comes along that isn't quite big enough that would require an area structure plan, but isn't so small that a typical development permit would be sufficient. Requiring an outline plan for development of this size is fairly common practice across Alberta. And what it does is it helps connect our big picture plans, like our municipal development plan, with our more specific development approvals and review of our land use bylaw. And it makes sure that major issues like land use, environmental concerns, infrastructure, and technical feasibility are all addressed early and understood by the public, council, administration, and the developer before formal rezoning, development, and subdivision decisions are made. So it's really to get a first brush at exactly what is being proposed. Administration has reviewed the outline plan and supporting documents that have been submitted, and there have been no technical concerns noted. We also circulated this to our planning consultant who helps us with development permit reviews, and they also found no issues from a technical perspective. And in administration's point of view, the proposed development does align with the municipal development plan, and administration supports the policy context and explanation that was included within the outline plan. Approval of the outline plan is just the first step. It doesn't hold council to anything, more just an acknowledgement that this is the development being proposed ahead of rezoning, subdivision, and development approvals, which still need to happen. It's really just to get a clear picture of what's being proposed at this stage. So administration is looking for council to move one of the options recommended. Thank you.
So I'd like to say that this project represents an opportunity definitely to support vulnerable populations with housing, but I have a lot of questions. First of all, this wasn't the way it was represented to us at our first meeting, and knowing what second stage recovery is, and second stage recovery can take like 1 to 2 to 3, how many ever years. Stage 1 is actually the addiction, you know, detoxing, and then they come out into stage. When I pointedly asked this to them, they said that there would be 24-hour supports on that property in a building. When I look through this, there is no building that shows me that they will have access to 24/7-hour supports, which leads to more questions. And I don't think that we can approve this at this stage without another, well, maybe we can at the very low level, but there needs to be a number of questions asked. Like tax status, for example, is that property taxable? I don't expect these answers right away, but I need to know about public safety as well. Like, we all know what addictions, when I spoke with the people that came to talk to us, they said it was for women leaving and needing housing after the women's shelter. There was nothing about addictions. That's a whole new ballgame, especially with the mental supports that High Level has. We need to make sure that these supports are there, because this could lead to all sorts of problems with policing and the peace officers and who's going to control this? Is it going to be the Danida, or is it going to be social services? Or like, there needs to be more answers, I believe. So my suggestion we need to sit down and talk to either NDE or Chief and Council and get all of these things figured out. Deputy Mayor.
The notifications that were delivered to adjacent landowners, I believe said low-density social housing is how it was characterized, which is not what they're talking about here. So I was really surprised to see this.
Yeah, I don't think it was represented to myself in the CAO the way it's written here, and like there needs to be a lot of discussion over this. I believe. I don't know what the rest of you. Like, I thought it was a great idea when there was going to be supports there. But without supports, how can people recover? Especially in a community here. We've tried that with 10,005 house, with ADAC. I mean, we need to see all of this stuff in place. Otherwise, it's just housing. It's not what, I don't know what it was represented to you as. Was it as addiction?
Thanks for the question.
You don't.
Since we started engaging on this project with them back in the summer, at least administration to administration, it has been pretty consistent in what they were proposing.
And even if they don't have enough Denny Thaw members, they're gonna rent it out to Little Red, or, I mean, that's, I don't know, am I wrong? I don't know.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I am in total agreement. I am very concerned if this were to be put in place of the policing and the controlling and the help that they still require. I get the feeling that it's being dumped on high level and without the thought that, you know, who's going to pay for it, right? And yes, it's a great idea, but I think there's lots of holes that need to be filled first.
Yeah, I think it's gotta require a wholesome, like well, I was in full support of the idea, but that was when I figured it was a support center, not just houses. So I would say our next step is to talk, is to talk with, invite the Dene to a meeting so that they can, to a one-on-one with council so that we can figure out what this project is all about.
Yeah, I'm just agreeing with you and Brent completely. With the part that scared me right away was that there was no on-site supports. That's a very dangerous time in someone's life, and with our lack of supports here in high level, it can't be on us to provide that because we are lacking it ourselves. So we agree with the mayor here that we need to have a better conversation with them about this.
I know that there's mental health supports here, but they're not always available 24/7, and then it becomes a policing issue, and then it morphs into other things. So I would just really like to sit down with NDA or the chief and council and discuss what they envision besides just putting houses in there. What do you think, Councillor Welke?
I was just going to ask, was the conversation with our administration, like administration to administration, basically just a form of independent housing, as we're kind of seeing here, and not a more robust support service like the mayor was feeling? I'm just like your comments, Logan, were that your conversations were very much on par with what we're looking at here, correct?
Well, it fits the development, right?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, I would say since we've been talking with administration to administration, it has been fairly consistent. When we asked them, and we were at the beginning stages trying to figure out how do we define this? Is it assisted living? Is it not? Are there on-site supports? Are there not? What was explained to us at the time was this is going to be housing, kind of second stage recovery housing, people coming out of different facilities or different situations that need that next stage of housing, and that while the supports right now weren't being provided on site, the people living in those houses would be able to go access supports elsewhere, or they would bring supports in to assist them, but those supports would then leave at the end of the day. And so since there would be no formal support housed on that site, that's where it isn't technically defined as assisted living under our definitions under the land use bylaw. So I guess all to say, it's not that they said there were going to be no supports, just that there were going to be no permanent supports offered on site. But to answer your question again, yeah, it was fairly consistent from when we started talking with them to what you're seeing now in the outline plan.
Okay. Well, I agree that warrants a little further discussion, maybe council to council.
Like, I don't have problem with the housing going in there, but if they're gonna use it as a second stage recovery, there has to be supports there. Like, there's gotta be life skill training and all of those things that even have been tried by the FASD Society. These are the type of, there's gotta be counseling for addictions and trauma. And otherwise, it can't be called a second stage, what it says in here, second stage recovery. Can you set up a meeting for us, please? Or somebody, I guess Viv.
Through your worship, would it be good to invite them to come to a meeting and do a delegation for council?
Absolutely, and you know, you could do it for our committee of whole in,
Yep, okay.
because I mean, I have lots of questions I'd like answered. So we will table this to committee of whole. I'll make the motion, which then, do you want the all in favor of that motion before I get sidetracked? So the next one is direct control. Do you still want to do that?
Thank you for the question. I'm just reviewing the next committee of whole date, which I believe is May 20th.
Yes.
Yeah, May 20th. And so we could still move forward with the first reading. There's a couple options the council could have. They could either table that until after the meeting that we're planning for the committee of whole, where we bring them on as a delegation. What that would effectively do is move first reading to May 26th and would then push out the public hearing and second and third reading to
Well, we can give first reading right now.
yeah, that would be the other
That's
option.
just that we're gonna look for more information.
Yeah, that would be one option is provide first reading today. Public hearing and second reading wouldn't be planned until May 26th, so that would be after the committee of the whole. I guess one challenge is that if it's decided that their site or their plan or proposed development needs to change significantly, then they would have to go back to the drawing board on their rezoning application because the rezoning application would not allow for an on-site support to be built there. So we'd have to go back on the direct control district and add in some different uses and definitions and potentially change out their notational site plan that's being attached to the direct control district. So there's a few different ways that we could do it.
I get it's more work, but we need to do this properly. Otherwise, it could blow up in our face. So I know it's gonna take more time, more administrative time, but
What we could do is provide first reading, and then after the committee of the whole, if it's decided that we need to delay things a little bit further, at the public hearing and second reading, we could delay the decision. Or there's a few options that we have. So if we wanted to provide first reading, we could work towards the best path forward on that.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I was just gonna say exactly that this is really a different issue completely, and we're just moving first reading, and if there was gonna be changes, that's why we have the open house and the ability to change, so I'm prepared to move first reading.
Okay, nix the tabling. Oh, on the direct control one? We're not there yet.
So Sorry, I thought we already moved to table the other one, and we're talking about direct control.
Yeah, we did table this one, okay, yeah, let's go
So-
first reading.
Yes.
First reading on the direct
Yes.
control. Okay.
All in, huh? What page are you on? I'm on 565.
70.
So there was a change in the agenda, Josh? So this goes along with the Moose Meadows?
Okay, I didn't realize that we were having a hearing for that.
Okay, all in favor of first reading? Carried. Moved by the deputy mayor in case, who's taking notes? Okay. All right, the next one is making housing easier to build, the land use bylaw. Replace and repeal.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So back in June of 2024, Council directed administration to complete a housing needs assessment and prepare a housing accelerator fund application. And then in September of 2024, Council approved the application that administration proposed. And by December, we learned that we were successful in our application, one of only a handful of municipalities in Alberta. The town was awarded about $1.6 million over the next 3 to 4 years to complete the housing action plan that we applied for. One of the first steps in our Housing Accelerator Fund action plan is updating our land use bylaw before the middle of June to improve flexibility around different housing types and site provisions to make housing ultimately easier to build. And right now, almost every section of the bylaw would need changes to meet the proposed land use bylaw amendments. And so rather than have a very long amending document, after discussing with our legal counsel, it was recommended that we instead repeal our current land use bylaw and just replace it with this new version. What that does is it much easier than doing an amending bylaw for 150 pages. And it also consolidates all of the previous amendments into one clean land use bylaw that we know is current and up to date. The proposed changes focus on two major things. The first is improving flexibility around the types of housing that could be built, things like secondary suites and townhouses in more areas, removing unit caps and height limits. And the second would be making it ultimately easier to build with more flexible rules for parking, lot sizes, setbacks, densities, and other typical site provisions that usually come up in development applications. We've also proposed a couple additional changes beyond what was committed to under our action plan, but that were still in alignment with the intent of what we were proposing. Ultimately, a couple of these would be simplifying our parking rules. Currently, we have 32 different categories of parking, which makes it very confusing for developers to understand where do they fit in, how much parking do they need to provide. I would say in my experience, aside from incomplete applications or missing information, trying to get the parking right is the number one thing that leads to application delays and development delays. One of note, it took us about 6 months of going back and forth on site plan configuration just to finally figure out how they could fit all their required parking on their site in a way that worked with all of the other provisions like setbacks and stuff like that. So what this would be doing is really just simplifying that. And as the town and administration, we are experts in planning and development and the town's regulations, but what we're not experts on is how many parking stalls any one individual business needs at the end of the day. And so the ultimate goal is still to require them to have parking, but to somewhat leave it up to them to decide how much parking they need and then allow the market to dictate if that amount of parking is sufficient for their business or their residents. If you don't provide parking, you're probably not going to be able to find tenants very easily, but if you provide the right amount, you will. We're not saying we know what that perfect amount is, we'll leave it up to the developer. Another
So in your
change,
experience,
yes.
how many parking regulations did you have? Like, how many did you need for certain properties?
For applications that have come up? I guess it all depends on the type of project being proposed.
So a 60-room apartment building.
Right now, under our land use bylaw, I believe it's 1.5 parking stalls per unit. And depending on the type of housing, that may be sufficient. I would say I'm not an expert in how many they should have. There are a lot of arguments one way or the other on how much parking 60 units should have, but yeah. I guess it's not a clear answer, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
The other change that we added was defining mixed-use buildings a little bit more carefully. Right now, mixed-use buildings are allowed under land use bylaw and have been approved in the past, but the way that they were defined was very difficult to understand in our land use bylaw. And so to clarify that, we just added mixed-use building as a definition and then included that within different land use districts. An important note on this is that council isn't legally required to provide readings to this bylaw. Even though we entered an agreement with CMHC to do these things, it doesn't require us to actually do anything legally. What it would potentially do is put that agreement at risk of being canceled and funding being clawed back. But yeah, again, no legal requirement. But if first reading is given tonight, administration will move forward with public engagement, including presentation of the material hosted at the high-level trade show so that we can get as many people to see it as possible if they want to. We'll be doing some public advertising, mail-outs, and right now on our shapehighlevel.ca engagement platform, all of this content is now live for the public to look at and has been summarized for them a little bit more. I'd recommend all of the councillors and mayor take a look at that page because it does summarize things a little bit more than what's in the agenda package today. The second attachment to this report is a redline version of the proposed land use bylaw, and it shows exactly where the changes are being made and what is being made. If it's a strike through, it means it's being deleted. If it's just red with no strike through, that's either a proposed change or addition. So administration recommends the council give first reading to this bylaw as presented and then schedule a public hearing for May 26th, 2025. Thank you.
Council? What's your wish?
That was a lot of work. I think it was really well done.
Yeah.
Like, makes the most sense based on what the director had to say.
So
I
will
agree
you
with changes
prepare?
of this type. Sure, having the open house is a good idea. Sure, I'll move first reading.
Okay, so moving first reading of land use bylaw 1051-25. All in favor? Carried. Think you were moving or something? You have all these things in here. The next one is the municipal development plan amendment.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a related item to the one previous. It's a requirement to ensure that our municipal development plan and our land use bylaw are in alignment with one another. In the municipal development plan, it does generally support the proposed changes of the previous item, but there is one area that would need to be amended, and that is that there are a few instances where it says that the town should either encourage units to a maximum of 4 stories or discourage units above 4 stories. One of the small changes that we made is allowing residential buildings up to 6 stories in the downtown commercial and high-density residential land use district. And so we would need to change the municipal development plan wording from the 4-story language to the 6-story language. And that is really all that this item is speaking to. Thank you.
Any discussion on that, council? Somebody move first reading, please.
I'll move first reading.
Counselor Welke, all in favor? Carried. This is, you're gonna have all this at the trade show?
Yes, we have a bunch of boards that have been prepared to summarize all of this. And then if, for the people that really want to get into the weeds, we'll have printed off copies of the proposed changes.
You can give them my binder.
Yes, we could do that.
All right. Now moving on to our tax rate bylaw.
Through your worship, the Municipal Government Act requires that council pass an annual property tax bylaw to raise revenues to be used toward payment of expenditures and transfers approved in the annual budget. The Town of High Level 2025 operating budget was approved by council on March 10th. And in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Government Act, administration has crafted the Town of High Level 2025 property tax bylaw 1054-2025 for council's consideration. Administration is aiming to mail tax notices to all residents on May 16th, 2025, with a due date of June 30th, 2025.
Is there any questions? Lost my notes somewhere. Any questions on this? The mill rate has gone up 0.5. Council-
Residential, yeah. I'm
Council.
prepared to move first reading on this bylaw.
All in favor? Carried. Does anybody want to move second reading?
I'll move second reading.
Counselor Welke? All in favor? Carried. And third reading?
I'll move
Unanimous
for
for
unanimous consent.
Oh, unanimous consent, sorry. Deputy Mayor? All in favor? Carried. And third reading? If you stop it now. Counselor Lebrion? All in favor? Carried. There is no old business. No new business. Correspondence for action is the Peace Library Board. Is this on here for us to approve it, or? Okay, move for information. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's just the bill to
Yeah.
the library from PLS. So.
Could I have someone move for information, please, because I have another item on here. Counselor Lebrion, all in favor? Carried. So the next one that I put on the agenda was an invite to the annual ceremonial review of the cadets. And it's going to be held on the 28th of May. And they ask that I be there. Could I have a motion to send me to this event, please?
Where is the event being held?
Here in High Level,
Then I'll make a motion.
in Ottawa.
Well, I'll make the motion to send the mayor to represent the town at this function.
All in favor? Carried. Correspondence for information. Is there any questions? Could I have a motion to move the information then, please?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, thank you. Just about forgot about you. All in, yeah,
I
there's,
don't think Mr. Jessamine can make him. He resigned.
After tonight, though.
you resigned.
It's effective immediately on Tuesday.
Should have waited till the end of the meeting.
Yeah,
Counselor Welke, would you like to make that?
I'll make a motion to move the correspondence for information.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And finally, the departmental monthly report. Is there any questions? No questions. Could I have someone move this, please? Counselor Lebrion, all in favor? Carried. Notice our question period. Do you have any questions? Yeah. Would you like to come to the mic, please?
Thank you very much for
You're
giving me a
welcome.
chance to come here and sit before you guys. I guess I was just gonna say, I noticed, Logan here, I noticed that it's a common thing that you see so many times. But, when you say Denala, it's just like, like the bear and the hat and the cat. But, cause of the way it's spelled with the TH and then the little mark over the A, it's easy to kind of get confused from that for sure. I just want to, have a proposal of somewhat to give, to ask of you guys. Some of you don't know who I am. My name is Cameron Chisike. I am a member of Denala First Nation. I was born just around the corner here, when this used to be a hospital. And from there I went straight out to Chate. I lived there as a child, right up until I was about 8 years old, not speaking a word of English. I went from Chate to downtown Calgary when I met my stepfather, Ben Susi, who ran the social services department here for many years, before moving down to the city. And as, like, I've been involved with as much as I can with my people, to not only educate them on our history in the area, but also to try to bring awareness towards what our rights are, as being Treaty 8 Indians, and also what your guys' rights are being Treaty 8 residences, because Treaty is not only on our side, but it's also on your guys' as well, right? So we're both treaty when it comes to Canada. I get a little flustered here because I don't get a chance to talk very much in front of a council. But my mother, Roxanne, and who attended the Indian Day School, and then my father, Napoleon Bastian, who committed suicide when I was about 23, and many issues that he had problems with throughout his life were because of what happened to him at the residential school as well, and also the stories of what happened to his brothers. I have a couple uncles that were very bad growing up, I guess you could say, as far as crime and stuff, but when you come to think about people's history and people's past, unless we really know where they came from, it's not for us to judge. So I've never come to judge my father for the abuse that he laid on my mother as a child growing up. And so, like I said, I come from a home of serious domestic violence as well. And me as a parent, I believe that I did a great job in cutting that cycle with my children so that my children don't have to see that. But yet I tell them the story and I let them know of where we came from as well. In my language, my name Cameron came from when my mother first seen maps and stuff of our area. She named me Cameron because of the Cameron Hills that were up in the Steen River area. And my middle name's Rial because one of her favorite characters in Canadian history was Louis Riel. And so that's where my name comes from my English name. In my language, my name is Etsihdon, which means brother to all. I treat everybody as much as I can like family and try and give as much respect as I can to everybody that I come across. I'm a father of 4 boys, 3 of which reside with me at the moment. And I do my best to raise children that will be productive in this town and in the area and for our people as well. I guess backed up a little bit. When I was raised by my grandparents, I was raised, when you pass through Rainbow Lake, you'll go 6 miles until you get to what they call the BC baseline road. I was raised 1 mile down that road in the middle of the bush with my grandparents. I remember when my father did a good number on my mother, and my mother moved to the city after that abuse. I stayed with my grandparents for a period of 3 years. And at that time, I remember even designated driving from Rainbow Bar out to my grandpa's cabin at the age of 7 years old, right? But all the type of stuff that, you know, we come across as we evolve as Aboriginal people. My grandfather, who I just lost 2 years ago, when I asked him where he was born, he said, I was born on the snow by the fire under the stars. And jokingly says, lucky guy. And I don't think that's a joke at all. I figured that to be very lucky of him. His father, who also raised me until I left, his name was Alexis Sinyanta, and he was our spiritual leader. And to this day, when we start our drum music, our drum dances, the prayer song that is sang by the drummers prior to any event is the father of the song of my great-grandfather. And that came to him in a dream. And at that time, that's where the prophet song and the prophet dance is what the tea dance is called, is considered the prophet dance. I guess basically, with what I wanted to start with, when I came here to the meeting last time, you had a Truth and Reconciliation book with you. And nothing makes me more happy to know that the town of High Level is being led by somebody who would have that book in her hands. But as far as on a Native perspective, the Truth and Reconciliation, the 94 Calls to Action is a great start to reconciliation. It's just the beginning grounds. Nothing inside that book was ever talked to by the Anadaw First Nation, and we're all sovereign nations across this country. We're not all together considered one. And so when I think about it, there's many other things and that many Aboriginal people across this country figure should be looked at when it comes to reconciliation. And so when, I guess, reconciliation is, I guess it's a church, like a religious term. It starts with one, which is the confession. And the confession is just saying what was done wrong to our people, just like the Pope did when he came through. And then the second is penance. And the penance is self-inflicted, how do you say it? How do you say it? Where how do you say it? What's the word I'm trying to say? You have to, it's not the confession, but it's like kind of like you have to punish yourself to a certain extent until the person who was punished is willing to forgive. And that's the third step, is the forgiveness. And so when I look at that, I look at many things that Canada has done without the consultation of Aboriginal people. Everything from creating the Indian Act to the Natural Resource Transfer Act of 1930, many of which we're still sitting on the back shelf, and we're still, as Aboriginal people, fighting in court for those rights that were impeded on us, or abrogated or derogated on us through what our rights were with the proclamation of the Royal Proclamation of 1763. And under Section 25 of the Constitution of Canada, it states that everything that the Royal Proclamation states is still what's law in Canada. And many things have happened since then, including, like, the 1899 is when my people signed, but we didn't have an actual person. We were considered Indians of the land on the treaty. But that was signed in 1899. Alberta didn't become Alberta until 1905. And so when you look at any laws that Alberta would produce, anything after that would be considered under Section 325 derogated or abrogated, because you're compiling different laws on top of what was originally dealt with as a deal. And when you look at Alberta, it was 1905. I'm not sure, when I try to look into the history, when the Improvement District is what this area was called before it was called the Mackenzie, the MD of Mackenzie. I'm not sure what the date of the Mackenzie, of when it went from the Improvement District, when that was created, but in 1995 is when the MD of Mackenzie was established. The town of High Level was 1965, and when I think about that date of 1965, my mother was born 3 years before the town started here. But 2 years before my mother was born was the very first time that Aboriginal people were allowed to vote in Canada. When I think about that, I think about how much of a injustice has happened, and what, like, when we were allowed to vote in 1965, 1960, anything prior to that date, we had to give up our status as an Indian. So we were no longer called Indians. And it's almost like could be considered legal genocide to get rid of a population of people and their identity. So when I come to think about that, there's so much that has happened in this area without the input of Aboriginal people in this area. When I think about it, it's like if you guys have all went to the Esso gas station across the highway, the name of the Esso gas station isn't Esso, it's Tloemoi. That's the name of the store. And in my language, Tlomoy means edge of the prairie. My grandfather walked right through this town to go to Fort Vermilion to trade furs, and also went to Fort Nelson on dog sled. And he said that in this area, we would call it edge of the prairie, because as soon as you head west to Rainbow, it's straight swamp, and as soon as you go that way, boy, it's beautiful farm fields, right? So our people have called this area the edge of the prairie for some time. The main reason why I'm here is because I'm a status Indian and I live here. When I look at reconciliation, I see the confessions part of it, where you have the land acknowledgement now, where you say that you live here, you say that you recognize that it's in the footprints of my people's land. The blood that flows through the groundwater is from my ancestors. We had the traditional land use and occupancy study done, and there's settlements that were dated back 8,000 and 9,000 years, all in this area. There's grave sites that we found up on Blue Hills. My grandfather, when I was growing up, I was explained what our traditional land area was. And that included Wat Mountain, of course Wat Mountain, because in our language, Wat Mountain is called Burnt Mountain. And I think it's kind of funny because for the highest part, that's where lightning would mostly strike and most likely burn, right? But also Caribou Mountain. And a lot of the Cree that live out east aren't familiar with even their own history. The namesake of the Peace River comes because of an agreement between the Dene and the Cree, that the Cree would stay on the south side of the Peace River, and the Dene and the Beaver had the north side of the Peace River. And that's where the name the Peace River comes from. When I look at the diggings that are in this area, it's been here. It shows that our people have been here for a long time. And I remember you were at the inauguration of Wilfred Hukanuza. And of course, I was really happy for you to be there as well, representing the town. But out of all my years, James Anasay, he was my chief for a whole generation. During that time, we lost a lot of our culture. Not once did I ever see my chief at a tea dance or a drum dance or more than a couple hours at our annual assembly. And so we lost a lot of that. But one of the biggest things that stuck to me when he spoke last before giving up the office to Wilfred, was that this land here, we have not, it's not unceded. This area still is Danelaw traditional territory. And in the long run, as well with my children and what we pass on to our youth, is that there has to be a continuous effort for acknowledgement, because there's nothing more important to Aboriginal people than land. The government is doing a really good job right now of giving us cows and plows, giving us our ancestors money of $40,000, which really doesn't mean anything to so many people. And now we're working with our treaty annuities with the government and discussing what the financial compensation with that is. And to me, I'm totally against anything like that, because it really hits the border of what our rights are when it comes to the treaties that we've assigned or we've made agreements with. In those treaties, it was with peaceful coexistence, and I believe that as Aboriginal people, we've done a pretty fair job of it for how quickly we've come out of the bush in the last 60 years or 70 years. Prior to that, like my grandfather Albert was the very first person in Chate with a vehicle, and he made it through the cut lines with chains on the back tires of a station wagon in 1964, right? And it's still every year when they have like the little radio station contests and stuff, that's still one of the first questions to be asked is who is the first person in Chate with a vehicle. I've had a chance to look over the Alberta tax exemption bylaws and by Alberta municipalities. And I really do feel, as Aboriginal people, that we fit into that if we were even to have property here in the town of High Level. And that's the reason why is because we're considered inhabitants of this area before High Level, and we hopefully will still be here after the town of High Level. And to me, I feel as though, especially for the town hitting its 60th birthday this year, I feel as though it'd be a really great leap forward if the town was to consider that individuals who are status Indians that live here in the town of High Level, that have property title under their name and who are status Indians, should be exempt from paying property taxes in the town of High Level. And rather than leaving it as a tax exemption property, the best way that I could see it being strung by you guys is to look at it as being considered an environmental reserve. And an environmental reserve is me. I'm the same thing as a bird outside. I'm the same thing as the grass that grows on my lawn. I'm the same thing as anything when settlers come to an area. I'm an original inhabitant of the area. And so I would like it for the town of High Level to consider, for your consideration, that Aboriginal people in the town of High Level should be exempt from paying property taxes. And I understand that this may be hard for the town of High Level or its residences, but when I try and have a guesstimate of how many status Indians might have a house here in High Level, I would say 100. And out of that 100, the average person would pay approximately $2,000 in property taxes. So out of that 100 people paying $2,000, you're looking at $200,000. And when you think about the fact that the land acknowledgement states that you live and walk and on the land of the Danelaw, I feel as though under the treaties that we have and our understandings of intergovernment relations, that something like this, I wish it wasn't brought to you guys by me, but I wish it would have been brought to you guys by someone else long before me. And so as a person and as a Danelaw First Nation member who is entitled to tax exemption by so many other places, just to name a few, I'm tax exempt by Amazon. I'm tax exempt by TELUS at home and mobility. I'm tax exempt by Super 8 Hotel here in High Level, Mirage Hotel. I'm tax exempt at the Canadian Tire. I'm tax exempt when I buy a vehicle at Ford, when I buy a vehicle at GM, and when I buy a vehicle at Dodge. I'm tax exempt. I'm tax exempt by ATCO Electric and ATCO Gas. I'm tax exempt by Direct Energy. And just about every hotel, I have not stayed at a hotel in Edmonton since 2012 that I have not been tax exempt from. Apex Utilities also gives me tax exemption. And so when I kind of look at that, off reserve and on reserve, when you look at the tax rules for Canada, right now, again, abrogated and derogated, that the only place that I am tax exempt is on a reserve. But what I'm wondering is, if my reserve wasn't established until 1949 and Treaty 8 was signed in 1899, then again, the government does a very good job of putting layers over top of Aboriginal rights. And so I would just be here to approach the town high level for your consideration that if any land is titled to Aboriginal people within the town boundaries of high level, and I would like, later on, be a good conversation with the MD, but to be considered tax exempt within the town limits of high level.
So, that's a huge conversation.
It is.
Number one is, that is the only way that high level can pay its bills is by taxing people. So if you create a reserve, then there's a difference. You pay service charges for fire, water, all of those things. You don't pay taxes, so there would be some negotiation in there, but we need more than 2 months to go through something like that. So, I mean, it's something that perhaps we could look at, but $200,000 to a community like High Level, that is their only income, is by taxing the people, is a lot of money. It's a sidewalk or two.
Yeah, that's right. And
But anyways, you know what? We will discuss it and look at it, but, yeah, I don't know. I've never heard this before, other than when municipalities have opened up urban reserves, or I like to call them economic reserves, but not to exempt people from personal taxes. So,
and that's where I was saying where, because I've heard of the term urban reserve as well. I think one of the best examples is like the Eagle River Casino outside Whitecourt, right? And to me, I'm not looking at the urban reserve designation. I'm looking at the
you're looking for tax exemption.
environmental reserve designation.
Well, we will have to take a while to study that, but it won't happen this year because everything's already been assessed. We've passed a tax bylaw. Like, I mean, we could certainly look at it. But then that means we have to gather who's all status Indians. People have to, like, they would have to apply. There's a whole raft of things that would have, we can't just say, yeah, you're exempt.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you. Did you have a
Well, I just had a question, Graham. Like, did you research any other municipalities that have done any programs such as this? No?
And the reason why I say is just because there's not very much municipalities or towns that have entered into friendship agreements with neighboring First Nations.
Right.
And you guys are one of the first ones. And so as I approach you with this, I again, looking for the.
I get that, but our friendship agreement is between your nation, not between individual people.
That's right, yeah.
And our friendship agreement is to work on projects that benefit everybody.
Both, yeah.
Both. So like a symbiotic relationship.
That's right. I just learned that word here the other night. My son taught me, and he's only 10.
But thank you for bringing that forward and gives us food for thought.
For sure. I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Cameron.
Very much.
Have a good evening.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you go ahead. All right, could I have someone move us into in camera, please? Counselor Librion, all in favor? Carried.